Hi, I am Dave Atkinson, and welcome to Life on the Straight. For this great adventure series, I'll be reading from my 3-volume book, The Yonder Years, and this video will be providing a little more content than what is in the book. In this segment, with our shakedown cruise to Seaside, Oregon completed, and our departure date 3 short months away, there is still a lot of preparation work we need to complete, more than what you might think. Thank you for following Life on the Straight. If you enjoy this content, please subscribe to this channel, which is free. And now, the Yonder Years. As a retired realtor, I knew that when our house went up for sale, it needed to be empty with all obvious repairs done, and I wanted it to be spotless. It was possible that we would be on the road shortly after it was listed, and I didn't want the drama of having an unsold home sitting vacant for month after month weighing on us while we were away. As far as all our personal belongings were concerned, we decided to sell most of what we had through the magic of Craigslist and a big garage sale, and to donate the rest of what we didn't want. We needed to rent a storage locker, preferably a heated locker, to help prevent our belongings from smelling like mold when we finally retrieved them. We had several pieces of furniture that we didn't want to sell, such as our king-size bed and headboard, 2 nightstands, the solid oak dining room set, my solid teak office set and filing cabinet, Amy's insanely heavy armoire, and her custom-built red kitchen hutch. She also had an old wooden hope chest that she wanted to keep. We had a new treadmill that we didn't want to part with, along with several household and garden tools, various keepsakes, 2 office chairs, our fireproof safe, and dozens of boxes full of financial records and the like. Amy and I were good at holding garage sales. My cousin was almost a pro, and we had packed up some valuable lessons when she organized the estate sale for my grandmother, and we were there to help. I was also good at selling stuff on Craigslist, so we didn't think that parting with our stuff would be a problem. Before all the above would happen, we had other things to take care of. When you sit down and contemplate everything that needs to happen before striking out across the country on a journey with no defined end date, the to-do list grows with each passing day. For starters, there was the issue of domicile. We would soon be free spirits roaming throughout the United States, and our home would be our motorhome. That's not good enough for the IRS, banks, investment firms, insurance companies, and certain state-related services such as driver's licenses and voter registration. We would need to establish a new domicile that for paperwork purposes would constitute our home. Fortunately, that task was easy. In addition to Gypsy and our Honda, we also had a Dodge Ram pickup truck, and Amy's brother Jerry agreed to store it for us in his shop up on Whidbey Island, taking it out from time to time to keep the battery charged and the engine exercised. His daughter and her family had lived on his property at one time in their 5th-wheel trailer, so he had a pad and hookups next to his house. We would just use his address as our domicile until we eventually settled into our house of our own. Receiving our mail while traveling was also something that we had to figure out. A friend of ours who lived in Kingston and that we both knew from our years in real estate came to the rescue. We secured a P.O. box at the Kingston post office, and our friend Tana agreed to pick up our mail at least once a week and sort out the good from the junk. Once she accumulated a large enough amount of mail, she would stuff it in a flat-rate envelope or box and mail it to whichever RV resort we would soon be at. I had called several RV resorts to see if they routinely received the mail and packages for soon-to-be arriving guests, and they all said that they did, so we knew that we had a good plan. Tana also agreed to open monthly rent envelopes from the tenants of our Idaho business park and deposit them at our local bank in Kingston. Without her assistance over the years, we would have been scrambling, trying to find someone to replace her. And we naturally reimbursed Tana for the postage costs, along with some Starbucks gift cards for her efforts. As much as we appreciated Tana for her postage and banking assistance, I also wanted to lighten her load as much as I could. While our monthly bills would soon be drastically reduced, no household utility bills for starters, we would still have bills to pay, such as for our cell phones, insurance, credit cards, and the like. I made a list of all our bills and moved as many of them as I could to be paid by credit card or from directly coming out of our checking account. I also moved as many statements and invoices from paper to electronic format as I could. Our estate planning also needed to be modified. Now, rather than wills, Amy and I had a revocable living trust for several years leading up to our planned trip. The trust was fully funded. That is, our home, the business park in Idaho, our vehicles, and our bank accounts and investments all showed our trust as their owner, with Amy and me as trustees. My brother John was our successor trustee, and our estate attorney was what is known as the trust protector, and basically he would oversee John to ensure that the settlement of our trust happened per our wishes. The living trust binder also included documents detailing our choices of power of attorney for health care. With us being on the road full time, we attempted to think through the chain of events that would and should happen if both of us were incapacitated or killed in an accident. It all started with, in case of emergency, wallet and purse cards, which we had made up and laminated to carry with us. The police would call some of the key people we had identified, and they would know what to do. We were on Facebook, plus we had emails and phone numbers from these people. Our intent was to always let them know what RV resort we were currently staying at. I would give John an open in an emergency envelope before we left, which would tell him what steps to do. For example, if Amy and I were involved in a car accident while we were out and about away from the RV resort, then Buzzy would be locked inside Gypsy. He would need to be rescued and given food and water until John could figure out what to do with him long term. I began thinking about other scenarios. What if there was a fire in Gypsy and we all perished? What would happen if my laptop computer was stolen or also went up in flames, destroying decades of financial and personal information? If John was notified by the police that we were dead or incapacitated, would he even know where we kept everything? Would he know what we had and where we had it? A storage locker, a fireproof safe full of important documents, and safe deposit and P.O. boxes. Fortunately, during the years when we were scrimping on everything in order to send every spare dollar to pay off our Idaho loan early, I had plenty of time on my hands. I put together a comprehensive group of documents that would walk my brother John through such a scenario. They told him everything that we owned, as well as where everything was at, what accounts we had, banking, investment, retirement, insurance, and their account numbers, what the necessary passwords were for all the accounts, what bills needed to be paid, how our personal property should be distributed in the event of our deaths, what our burial wishes were, and more. All I had to do was update that information to reflect the changes that would soon be taking place. The instructional documents were to be stored in a fireproof safe that would be in our storage locker, and our estate attorney would have the key to the locker. Our attorney would also hold our safe deposit box key for John once he obtained a death certificate to gain access to it from the bank. And we had the safe deposit box to keep a copy of our living trust along with a few valuable keepsakes. There was one last thing that we would be placing inside the fireproof safe in our storage locker. Before we departed, I planned on making a complete backup of my computer to an external drive and storing that drive within the safe. Electronics were another critical concern for us. With Gypsy's internal storage space at a premium, we needed to carefully consider what we would take with us. Amy and I each had desktop computers, me a Mac and her a PC. A few weeks after we returned from our shakedown cruise to Seaside, I purchased a new 15-inch MacBook Pro with ample memory and storage capacities for us to share. I also purchased a new iPad Air, as we were both avid book readers, and with the iPad Air, we could download and read electronic books rather than have paper copies taking up room. I figured the MacBook Pro for 2 users so we each could log in and, let me start that over again. I configured the MacBook Pro for 2 users so we each could log in and find our desktop, personal files, emails, and web bookmarks the way we had left them. I also moved all of our files over to the MacBook Pro from our 2 desktop computers and then scrubbed the hard drives so we could later sell them at our garage sale. I had been using a small Epson inkjet printer in my office that could also scan and make copies, so we decided to bring that with us and sell Amy's old HP LaserJet printer that she had used with her PC. Finally, we had each purchased an iPhone 4S back in late 2011, and we determined that it was not necessary to upgrade them at this time. March of 2014 had begun with our return from Seaside, and it would end with several more organizational tasks completed. During that time, we also purchased a few more items for our upcoming travels. We bought a Camco swivel stick to clean out the Blackwater holding tank, and we gave it a tryout. It required that you snake a garden hose into the coach and connect it to the stick, and then with your foot holding down the toilet's flush lever, placing the stick down into the tank and turning on the water. The end of the stick has a special sprayer that shoots out sideways in order to clean the walls of the tank. Not the most pleasant task to do, but one that would be required from time to time. We also purchased the optional zero water contaminant meter for our zero water filtration pitcher. We intended to use it by first testing the water from an RV park, and if it wasn't too full of minerals and other contaminants, we would run it through the filter and into the pitcher. However, if the water had a high level of contaminants, we would use bottled water for drinking and cooking. Zero water filters are significantly more expensive than those of other water filter brands, and if we were to run heavily contaminated water through the filter, it would rapidly plug it up, meaning that we'd have to buy more of them. Just doing the math, it made more sense to buy gallon jugs of drinking water from Walmart for less than $1 and use them instead of situations where the RV park's water was not up to snuff. We bought some emergency flares and a roadside reflector kit, plus a baking dish that would fit into the relatively small propane oven. And we began to buy some boxes from U-Haul and packing materials from Walmart so that we could start with our packing chores. But perhaps the most significant thing that we did in March was to make a 2-week reservation in Yellowstone National Park at the Fishing Bridge RV Park. This was the only RV park within Yellowstone that offered power, sewer, and water hookups. And although there were 310 campsites, they filled up fast, so I needed to get our reservation in early. Our arrival date would be June 2nd, but we would first have to swing by our Idaho property and spend a few days getting the sprinkler system turned back on, and then any broken pipes and or sprayer heads replaced or repaired, and then get the property cleaned up after its winter hibernation. And then we also wanted to spend a few days seeing the sights in Bozeman, Montana. So it was looking like a mid-May departure date. We still had so much to do.